Friday. It's Bishop on Air back at it with you. I'll tell you one thing, I'm consistent on doing this daily, but do I go at 7:30? Do I go at 7:40? 7:50? I think one day this week I started at 8. Listen, with the legislature having finished up their marathon midnight run sessions, we'll get back to some semblance of consistency, but happy Friday. Good morning, heading into the weekend, and just going to do one segment today on the Illinois reaction to former President Donald Trump being convicted of 34 felonies by a New York Circuit Court jury. And what this could possibly spell out, it's obviously a huge national story. Plenty of talking heads speaking about it, but what are the Illinois officials having to say? We'll delve into that. And a little preview of something coming up this weekend in Peoria and Tazewell County with the Republican Party there having a special guest speaker at their Lincoln Day dinner. So stay tuned. We'll get to that and more. Again, I want to shout out to those joining us, and also keep the suggestions coming as to what you want me to do for the summer. You want me to continue? Obviously, we will. Tracking the gun litigation with the possibility of a trial on the merits down in the Southern District of Illinois, Southern District Federal Court. So we'll obviously track that. But, say on the weekends, I could possibly head out and go talk to, a gun club, for instance. Go to a shooting range or various gun stores and do some highlights and get people to see what's going on across the state of Illinois. But of course, we've got the conventions this summer. I may have more news about that and some other big things. So one thing I also want to remind you, go to thecentersquare.com or search on your favorite podcast server, Illinois in Focus. Illinois in Focus. Dan McCaleb, the executive editor over at the Center Square, and myself, an associate editor at the Center Square, we do a recap of what's happening at the State House, and we talk a lot about the budget and so on. So be sure to get that podcast. Drops weekly, Illinois in Focus. That'll be coming out about 9 o'clock this morning. Trevor asks about the council corral. I got to get back into that. That's a great point. And this summer, I think I'm going to get back into looking at what's going on in Springfield City Council. But maybe I'll be able to bring some good news as well on how people across the state and probably across the country could tap into something that could help them do the same thing. So very cool. Let's see here. And we'll get to the Trump segment here in a moment, but good morning to everybody live in the chat room. It's starting to fill up there. J-Boy, Save the Humans. I'm just going from bottom to top. Tom, Trevor, Sergio, John, Tenebris, Patrick, David, Paul, JHRC, Doobie Lou, Peter, Huckleberry, Jerry, Christopher. I could go on, but looks like dozens of you guys joining us this morning. So I really do appreciate you. And shout out to Mr. Ryan792. He said ready and waiting as the first comment. Okay. All right. So we'll get back to it. All right. And give you the reaction from elected officials here in Illinois to former President Donald Trump's conviction in New York. So stay tuned for that here with Bishop on Air. Donald Trump, is he a justice-impacted individual? That's a new moniker that first-time offenders may be getting under a law that's advanced the Illinois General Assembly for those in the Adult Redeploy Illinois program. After Donald Trump convicted of 34 counts of felony charges in New York. Illinois elected officials sounding off on it. Back at it. Good morning on this Friday with Bishop on Air. Thank you so much for taking time with us each and every weekday morning. Donald Trump convicted in a hush money case. Go to thecentersquare.com. You can see the reporting there. My colleague Brett Rowland having this. Manhattan jury Thursday convicted the former president on all counts in his hush money case, a history-making verdict that could reshape the 2024 presidential election. Trump was convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records for disguising money, hush money payments to an adult film actress as legal costs ahead of the 2016 election. So they essentially said, hey, these are legal costs. They weren't hush money payments. And that's what they're charging him of violating. Under New York State, falsifying business records is a first-degree Class E felony that carries a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison. So after, 24 hours of the jury deliberating, they came out and they gave a guilty verdict on all counts. Apparently, they were unanimous. Here's what Trump had to say immediately after the verdict was read, and he had a short meeting with his legal team.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
So again, that's Donald Trump after the verdict. And apparently, you've also got a statement from the Biden campaign where NBC's reporting that Joe Biden's campaign put out this statement. Of course, Trump's the presumptive nominee for the Republicans. Biden's the presumptive nominee for the Democrats. Biden saying in New York today, his campaign that is, we saw that no one is above the law. There's still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. So that's the response from the two major candidates in this race. But what about the response from Illinois elected officials? One of the first ones that I saw post a message on X was U.S. Representative Mary Miller, Republican here in Illinois. And she first posted that, let me just get to the first tweet she made. She said, I sat in the trial for a day and it was a complete sham. The Democrat judge instructed the jury to find Trump guilty if only 4 out of 12 of them agreed on a crime. The anti-Trump witnesses admitted to lying under oath. The corrupt prosecutor was sent by the Biden DOJ. Then she went on to share other statements and headlines. Remember, this was a sham political trial orchestrated by a Biden DOJ official who used to work for Obama and the Democratic National Committee. She then goes on to share even more. Biden DOJ, different statements put out there. She says this is exactly right, but the mainstream media is refusing to cover any of this because they support Biden. After sharing a message from Hugh Hewitt saying that this is a travesty, and as certain as I have been on air that the former president would be convicted, I'm just as certain the conviction will be reversed. So you could see there some of the statements, at least from Mary Miller, a congresswoman. But what about on the Democrat side? Congressman Casten, he just simply put guilty on all counts. And then he shared a CNN clip of an interview with Tim Scott, a Republican senator from South Carolina. It says, the rot in the GOP is measured by the so-called reasonable ones who, in this moment, leave it to the rest of us to defend the rule of law, just as they left it to us to defend peaceful transfer of power. It is sickening and massively dangerous. So Sean Casten there, Democrat congressman, sharing his thoughts. Governor J.B. Pritzker also put out a statement on X, and he said that Donald Trump's a racist, a homophobe, a grifter, and a threat to this country. He can now add one more title to his list, a felon. But he went further than that with a statement that they actually emailed out from his campaign. And this is the statement that I got from the governor's campaign. He says, Donald Trump's a racist, homophobe, grifter, and a threat to this country. He can now add one more title to his list, felon. The statement goes on to say, following a jury's ruling that Donald Trump's guilty on all criminal charges, Governor J.B. Pritzker released the following. Justice has been served after facing a jury of his peers. Donald Trump is exposed as a liar and a fraud that he is. Trump evaded the law to deceive voters, and today the law caught up with him. Donald Trump is a racist, a homophobe, and we got that from his Twitter account. But let me be clear, he says Donald Trump will never be 47. So that's the statement from Governor J.B. Pritzker that his office put out yesterday. But that's not the only statements that were made, right? I mean, you've also got a response from the likes of Dan Proft, a conservative radio host up in Chicago, and he put this out. He said, remember, in Illinois, per Jelly Belly and his neo-Marxist comrades, it's not permitted to term Trump a convicted felon. He is simply another justice-impacted individual. And there's this story from when the legislature was in session. They were talking about having oversight of the Adult Redeploy Illinois program. It's a program for first-time offenders to go through if they've never been convicted of a felony, for instance. You know, it's a diversionary type of program in Illinois. It's supposed to help with rehabilitation in the criminal justice system, right? So they wanted to have oversight, and they put some people on the Department of Corrections and another organization as oversight for Adult Redeploy Illinois. But at the same time, they were in the law, and they tweaked the word offender, quote-unquote offender, is going to be justice-impacted individual. So maybe Proft has something here. I mean, Trump is a first-time offender, right? I mean, it's the first felony convictions I think he's got. I don't think there's anything. So would he be a justice-impacted individual? Interesting to see that take as well. But moving on, back to members of Congress, you got Raja Krishnamurthy. He was asked by Ed Krasenstein some of the response that he had to this, and interesting take from Raja Krishnamurthy. Check this out. Let's get that up. Where are we at?
Counts in New York.
Here we go.
So we just found out that former President Trump was found guilty on all 34 criminal counts in New York. We're here with Congressman Raja. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's a sad moment for our country when any former president is found guilty, but you know, he was found guilty by a jury of his peers, and that's kind of how it should be, and so he's entitled to all of his process and due rights at this point. But at this moment, I can't say that anyone's celebrating that a former president has been convicted of felony, which is a very, very serious charge.
So what would you say to the people who say, oh, is it biased jury or a biased judge? Because you know that's coming.
Well, I think that anybody who heard, you know, the arguments and the case would know that it wasn't very clear how the judge or the jury was going to actually rule on the substantive underlying issues. So for all of them to unanimously come to one conclusion is pretty significant.
So again, you've got the response there from Raja Krishnamurthy. You can find that entire thing on Ed Krasenstein's page, or just go to Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy's website, and you'll be able to find that. But again, it doesn't stop there. The U.S. House Speaker, you've got Mike Johnson saying in a statement, "Today's a shameful day in American history. Democrats cheered as they convicted the leader of the opposing party of ridiculous charges predicated on the testimony of a disbarred convicted felon. That was a purely political exercise, not a legal one. The weaponization of our justice system has been a hallmark of the Biden administration, and the decision today is further evidence that Democrats will stop at nothing to silence dissent and crush their political opponents. The American people will see this as lawfare, and they know it's wrong and dangerous. President Trump will rightfully appeal this absurd verdict, and he will win," with exclamation points. So one thing to note is you've got Mike Johnson. He's going to be a guest at the Tazewell County, Peoria County Lincoln Day dinner for the Republicans, and that's coming up this weekend. And by special guest Congressman Darren LaHood welcoming Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. And again, that's going to be Saturday. We're going to see if we can get something out over the weekend about what Speaker Johnson has to say. I imagine with a media gaggle before the actual dinner. It'll be interesting to see what kinds of questions are brought up and where this advances. Listen, I'm not an attorney. I know I've been tracking the gun ban challenge stuff, and I've been somewhat able to track the trajectory of the cases there on a preliminary issue and what happens next, and going all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But I don't know the particulars about how this criminal case proceeds. Sentencing, apparently that's going to be July 11th, just a handful of days before the start of the Republican National Convention to nominate Donald Trump. Is he going to be sentenced to home confinement? Is he going to be sentenced to just probation? Because he's a first-time offender again, right? I mean, we're supposed to give a lot of leeway to first-time offenders, apparently. First-time justice-impacted individuals. But it's clearly that there's going to be some rocky roads ahead, and we'll do what we can to take a look at it from an Illinois perspective, from a taxpayer perspective, and see how we can make sense of it together. So appreciate you guys being here and checking this out, just to be able to get at least a little bit of flavor as to how Illinois officials are responding to all of this. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning. It is Bishop on Air. All right, again, email me, guys, bishoponair@gmail.com. Let me know of some places that you'd like to see me go and highlight across the state of Illinois over the summer. We may be able to, who knows, maybe I get like 2 a month in or something. I don't know. But a lot of big things coming up. So follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air on X, on Facebook, here on YouTube, streaming elsewhere as well. But don't forget to go check out thecentersquare.com. All right, thecentersquare.com, celebrating 5 years as the Center Square. And not only can you get Illinois news, but you can get the latest in national headlines, what's going on over in Washington, D.C. We're a nonprofit newswire service, so you can donate and subscribe to the newsletter for free. But obviously, we are powered by you, and I appreciate you helping out with that. So that's where I'm at in my full-time gig. Part-time here on my own time, hanging out with you guys. So I really do appreciate you being part of the program, and we will see you back here next week with Bishop on Air. So I really look forward to chatting with you guys each and every weekday morning.